Well, I think for me, what I can get from the conference that I really can't get from doing it myself at home, is being seen. It's the opportunity to come and I can show up however I want to show up. I can be pissed off. I can be sad. I can be joyful. I can share a lot. I can share a little. And to do that and have the response not be judgment, not be next time do it this way, but just to see other men accept that, that was really validating and really grounding for me.
Mm-hmm.
So that being seen, I think, is what makes it so special.
I think I have a similar experience. I think that's true. I think real opportunities for vulnerability require you to be in person, require you to be in connection with other people, in the moment, live. And that's something that is rare to find, online or in person in many other places in the world. So I think that's a real gift that I've gotten a lot out of for the conference. I also think that so much of what we talk about and what we do is experienced not just by the mind. It's experienced by the body and the bones and the guts and the soul. And so those are pieces that I typically don't feel connect with things when I am on the computer or on my phone. And it really takes being in a room and people taking time and just moving at a different speed in order for those parts to really open up and come out and hear what they need to hear, so that I can step more into the person that I want to be when I go back. So.
I think it's interesting that this is not a group you sign up to be a member of. It's a space that we have to come together and share our stories and do our work. And so it's not that you sign up to ascribe to some set of beliefs or principles. It's really that if you feel called to come and participate in a conversation around what is it like to either be named or take on the identity of masculinity, then this is a space for you to come and do that. And so I think whether you identify as a man, whether you identify as non-binary, whether you identify as kind of any variety of sexual orientation or gender identity, as long as you feel called to come and sit in that circle and talk and listen about the notion of what it does or does not mean for someone to be a man, then I think that's a place you're welcome.
There's only so much you can get from poetry simply reading the lines in a book. There's only so much you can get from reading it out loud as you're pacing in your living room. But when you're in a room with men who are feeling some of those lines and feeling them intensely, it's a totally different experience. And you realize that the poet who wrote those words was feeling something very intensely. And it sets up a little bit of a resonance right in a person's chest, right in my chest, when I hear a particular poem that has that kind of power. And it's even inspired me to be brave enough to try to scribble a few lines myself. And poetry to me is part of the DNA of the conference, and it's one of the touchstones I like to always come back to every year, to have that exact experience.
That was one of the great things about the men's conference. I realized that poetry is not a collection of poems. Poetry is grace. And poems come out of grace in that sense. And a good poem at the right time is for everyone.
There's another poem that I really liked, and it was a Hafez translation that Robert did called The Wine Made Before Adam. And it goes, when the one I love accepts the wine, then the shop of the false idols collapses. I have fallen in a heap on the earth crying, in the hope that I will feel a touch of his hand. I have fallen like a fish into deep water, in the hope that the friend will catch me in his net. I remember Robert stopped after that line, and he made us all say it. He's like, I love that line, let's all say that. I have fallen like a fish into deep water, in the hope that the friend will catch me in his net. Oh, that's great. And I think I got so much joy out of that. Like seeing, poetry for me in school was like a stoic, dry exercise. And this was just so much more alive, so much more in it that I just enjoyed seeing someone recite and share that with everyone in the room.
There's always the moments that you capture, like, pictures in your head that you can't let go of, or that I can't let go of. It's the guy that stands up and speaks from his heart for what he would tell you was for the first time in his whole life. Or when a man who's been listening all week to the story and the share and the myth and the experience and stands up and says, I've never been in a place like this. I've never been in a room with men like this. Like, if you've been there, you've heard countless men say these almost exact same words. I've never been in a place so safe, so welcoming, and yet so potent with all the elements of a healthy masculine dynamic. And without getting into a lot of real specifics, those are the moments that I'm drawn to.